Hello, everyone. Hello, happy Friday. Happy Friday. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining in. Um, there was a little bit of technical difficulties. I'm sorry about that, but thank you for joining in. Anyone who's here, thank you so much. Hello again. Welcome. Happy Friday. So, um, let me see. I hope there's no longer technical difficulties, but I see people are coming in. So hello, welcome to Q&A with Dr. Mercy. Again, I'm so sorry there was a technical difficulties. That was my delay. So thank you for coming in to Q&A with Dr. Mercy. We have this every Friday. I usually like to ask, where is everyone viewing this live from? So what location are you from? I would love to ask. Hi, Shauna, how are you? Hey, Keisha, hello. Rashan, I'm sorry if I pronounced your name wrong. Hello, how are you? Hi, Renee, how are you doing? Hello. And also, how are you, Sean? How are you doing? Hello. Keisha, you're from Louisiana. Awesome. Okay, you're from Detroit, Michigan, California. Nice. Someone's from Florida, Massachusetts, Florida. My MD, I think, stands for Maryland, Florida. A lot of Floridans. New York. Hello, everyone from North Carolina. Hello. Tucson, Arizona. I used to live in Tucson, Arizona, so I'm familiar with those streets. I used to live there for 4 years. And this is pertinent to actually this way. And I bet it's hot over there right now. So this is going to be a very pertinent topic in Arizona. Oh, Ontario, Canada. Awesome. Tallahassee, Florida. Florida. Yes. Hello, Angelica. Hello. Oh, okay. Wow. Okay. So Kentucky. Great. Oh, Pittsburgh. Awesome. Well, welcome, everybody. Welcome. Atlanta, California. We're all over. North Carolina. A lot of North Carolinians. Shreveport. Okay. Great. Oh, with a long A. Okay, I got you. Sorry about that. But thanks for correcting me. Okay. Michigan. All right. Arizona too. Great. New York, Seattle. Welcome. Bahamas. Okay. All right. Okay. I wonder, is it hot over there like it is over here? I'm curious. Hello. How are you? Oregon. Okay. Hello from Oregon. That's great. It's very hot. Yeah, I was thinking about that. I was like, if I was in Tucson right now, I wonder how hot it'd be, because it was already hot when I was there. So it's very hot, and I'm in Houston, just like Cynthia. Yeah, great, Maryland. And Daniel, nice to meet you. Hi, everyone. Thank you guys so much for coming. Again, it's Q&A with Dr. Mercy. We have this around this time every Friday. And today we're talking about sun safety and, what we can do to kind of keep ourselves safe from the sun. As you know, we're going through a heat wave right now. So I thought, let's talk about it from a medical perspective. What are some things we can do just to get ourselves from not having to get any long-term or even short-term effects from the sun? So if you have any questions, make sure to just jot it down. If you even have any topics that you want to talk about in future conversations, feel free to jot those down as well, so that I have an idea of what you guys want to talk about. Eventually, I want this to be a dialogue, if you will. So I'll see how I can do that. I want to bring, and if you guys are, I don't know what you guys think about maybe having you guys come on the show, on the live, and just kind of have a dialogue. Would that be something that you guys would be interested in? If you are, please let me know also, and jot it down in the comment section so I can start thinking about ways to be able to do that as well. Also, it is very hot. Okay. And what is it? Okay, it streams in. Oh, okay. Predictor of daily. So, I mean, all over the world, we're experiencing this. we're experiencing the heat wave. So, it's definitely something that we need to, be aware of, especially from a medical standpoint. So let me just get to my presentation. Okay, so what are the effects of heat on the body? Before we get to that, let's talk about heat exposure. So as y'all know, we are dealing with a heat wave. I mean, this is from today, actually. This is from the weather report for today. And as you can see in Arizona, you guys are in the hundreds, 85 hundreds. In California, 110. So some of us were from Atlanta, so y'all, it says 80s here, but probably it's higher. And then then in Texas, I know some people said they were from Houston. You see in the Dallas area it's about 100. I know in Houston we've been in the hundreds for a while. And then maybe up in the northern parts of the United States, it hasn't been as hot, but definitely southern parts we've experienced a lot of heat. So, and we've been experiencing it for a long period of time. So we need to know what we can do to just combat that. So first of all, before we talk about what we can do to combat it, we want to talk about what are the effects of prolonged exposure to heat. Okay, what are some of the signs and symptoms? Because, as we're outside, maybe for work purposes, maybe for social purposes, either or, we need to be very mindful of when we know too much is too much. What are some of the things that we will start to see if we are developing heat illness? Okay, so you start feeling dehydrated. That's number one. A prolonged exposure to heat, you get what we call heat cramps. So you start feeling cramps in your legs or in your arms, that sort of thing. You may even develop a heat rash. And so dehydration, just like you said, Shauna, is heat. Yes. So you see, so yeah, you're right. You don't want to stay in the sun too long and you want to drink plenty of water. Yes. And we'll talk a little bit about this. Get used to it. It's only getting hotter for longer. Why? And you're right, Linwood. Why? Because of global warming. So yes, I agree with you. So we have to get used to it. If we're going to get used to it, then we have to know how to prevent ourselves from being affected by it. Lightheadedness, yes. And that's where I was going to talk about heat. Lightheadedness is equal to heat syncope. So in my presentation here, where it says heat syncope, it's you do get lightheadedness from prolonged exposure. Why? Because your body's so dehydrated, it only now focuses the fluids on vital organs. And unfortunately, sometimes it's centered around the center of your chest, and there's not enough fluid that's going up to your brain. So as you're getting dehydrated, it's almost like a gravitational pull. All this water is just going down. And when you're not getting a lot of fluid in your brain, you start feeling the lightheadedness, like you're about to pass out. So yes, lethargy. Yes, Shauna. So when you start feeling lethargy, actually you're going from a mild form of heat to a more extreme form of heat. So yes, so that's definitely, if you're starting to feel you're in the heat and you're starting to feel like you want to pass out, you're feeling lightheaded, you're feeling lack of energy, go to the shade immediately. Start drinking water immediately, because you may be already heading to what they call heat stroke. And hello, Faisal, how are Faisal? How are you? Oh, from Ethiopia. Thank you for tuning in. So other things, you would feel heat exhaustion, again, the lethargy part, and you'll also actually, ironically, you'll actually have heat edema, which means heat swelling. You can get swelling in your fingers, you can get swelling in your legs, and you can be like, well, why? Well, the body tries to regulate its heat based on the external environment. So if it's too cold, it tries to conserve heat, and so all its organs and even its vessels react to the external environment. So when it's too cold, the blood vessels will shrink, and it tries to conserve all the heat from the fluid inside its vessels. That's what the blood vessels do. But when it's too hot, the blood vessels expand because it's trying to get some of that heat from the fluids out of itself. And as it's trying to get the heat out of itself, as the blood vessels are expanding, so does the fluid go out. So the fluid goes out and seeps out of the vessels, causing actually swelling. I know it may be a little technical, but essentially when you're really prolonged heat can actually cause swelling. And it's because it's the body's way of releasing heat from itself. So we know the effects. We know how hot it is now. Now let's talk about the different kinds of heat illnesses. And in particular, the two different kinds you look at is heat exhaustion versus heat stroke. So now heat exhaustion is like, oh, I'm feeling hot. I'm starting to get effects of the heat. It's a mild form of heat illness. If you call this a spectrum, it's a mild form of that, right? Whereas heat stroke is, whoa, my body's being affected by the stroke. This is a medical, it's almost like is as serious as an actual stroke. This is a medical emergency. This is a life-threatening thing. And if I'm still in the heat for longer, for any more time, I can actually, someone can actually die from it. So you want to know, again, okay, if I'm starting to feel this, it's a mild form of heat illness. Maybe a couple sips of water will do, and and staying in the shade and maybe going inside will do, and I can recover from it. But if you're starting to feel certain other symptoms, it would be best to go to the hospital. So let's distinguish the mild to severe form of heat illness. So for the mild form, if you're seeing that you're just perspiring profusely, you're starting to act weak, even the dizziness, and you're nauseous, you're feeling headache, right away, stop what you're doing in the heat, go to the shade or go inside, drink some water, and relax, okay? If you start to continue to still feel that despite you relaxing, despite you getting away from the shade, it may be a serious thing. So you may have to seek medical care. But as long as you do that, get away from the sun, drink plenty of water, and relax, it should resolve. If it continues, then it's something that you need to check on, okay? Anything beyond that, where you're feeling confused, you're feeling or somebody's noticing that your heartbeat is rapid, you're to the point where you're unconscious or having seizures, no. By this time, the heat has really affected you and you need to go to the hospital, okay? So there is a spectrum between heat exhaustion to heat stroke. And when I say spectrum, I'm saying that sometimes you don't know where you are in the spectrum. There's a blending of the two. It may seem it's mild, but it's really severe. And you may still even need to go to the hospital because you're dehydrated and you need to get IV fluids in you, okay? Whereas, it could be mild and you just need to be drinking plenty of fluids to kind of rehydrate you and you'll be fine. But only you know your body. And again, like I said, if it's consistently persistent, despite you out of the shade, despite you drinking water, you may need to seek treatment. So what are some of the things that we can do? And a lot of these things you know already. And before I go into them, I'm going to do a deep dive into heat illness and heat and some of these things in general, in more detail in my next live. But for this particular live, I'm just going to be very basic. A lot of these things you know. Any questions, you can write them down in the comment section. Well, hi from Brazil. Hello, how are you? Hello. Do I suggest Gatorade over water? I actually suggest water over Gatorade when it comes to dehydration, because you need water to hydrate you. But Gatorade also has its pluses, it has its positives too. It has electrolytes in it. So, for me, it's fluids. That's what I'm saying. And Gatorade and water are my top twos. If I have water with me, I drink water myself. But if there's Gatorade there, I drink Gatorade. It's just staying hydrated is key. because you're not only losing water, you're also losing salt also, when you're extremely dehydrated. So that's where the Gatorade has an advantage over water, because it does have some sodium in it. But either or, in my opinion, is sufficient, and that's just in my opinion. So everybody says, in the sun, everybody knows to protect your skin, but you also know to protect your eyes as well. As a lot of y'all know, this is the whole purpose of sunglasses. Okay. Somebody told me to delete the Gatorade. And again, it's probably because of the sodium content or stuff like that. What I always, and I wish I would have had a Gatorade. Maybe the next live I'll bring one, so that we can see the back. Always look at the back to see the content of it and see how much, in terms, because they already have, not only do they give you the amount, they give you the percentage, the daily recommended percentage of each of the nutrients there. So if you notice that by you drinking 4 big bottles of Gatorade, you get 100% of your sodium, you don't want to do that, right? So you kind of have to gauge. If it's something that you want to drink of large quantity, you're right. I would agree with you. Dilute that, because you don't want to be drinking too much of everything is bad. Too much of anything is bad. That's what I'm trying to say. So you don't want to be just constantly drinking Gatorade and going over your recommended value when it comes to nutrients. So that's why, to me, anything I drink or anything I eat, I always look at the back to see how much of it I can eat, how much of it I can drink. If it's too much sodium, if it's too much salt, if it's too much potassium, it's too much any nutrient, then I gauge, okay, I don't want to eat the whole thing. I don't want to drink the whole thing, because I know I have other things that I'm going to consume, and I don't want to increase my sodium intake, or I don't want to increase my potassium intake, or I don't want to increase my sugar intake. Start reading the back of food and drinks to get a gauge of how much you can drink and you can eat for anything. And we can maybe even talk about that in future lives. It's just important to do. Anyways, going back to what I was going to say. So sunglasses, everybody always says, to protect your eyes, and to protect your skin, but they don't tell you why you need to protect your eyes. And so I'm about to show you why you need to protect your eyes from the sun. But yes, if you're in the sun for a prolonged period of times, you do want to protect your eyes from the sun, as well as your skin. So it's not just your skin that you start being concerned of. You want to also be concerned of your eyes. And the reason why is this one of the reasons why is this condition here. Same thing. I'm going back and forth. What about Pedialyte? Same thing. Pedialyte and Gatorade, to me, is the same thing, to be honest with you. Is added minerals, it's added materials, pretty much. It's added minerals, added electrolytes. And so you want to read the back and then gauge for yourself how much you can drink based on how much percentage of these minerals and electrolytes are in there. You know what I'm saying? It just, it helps you. So, and then someone says, as we're talking about skincare, well, I was in the sun for 4 hours, didn't wear sunblock because I thought I didn't need to, because African American skin doesn't burn. Lesson learned. My shoulders are still peeling. See? And so everybody needs skincare. And I'm sorry that your skin was peeling as a result. But, again, we all are in need of skincare, because skin cancer is not discriminatory. We all are prone to skin cancer. And yes, nowadays, melanin goes a long way. Don't get me wrong. Having increased melanin can help, but there's only so far it can do. So anyways, pterygium is a condition of the eye as a result of prolonged sun exposure. I don't know if you've seen some people, you have to really look at them as they're talking to really see this. You'll see this kind of like extra tissue that goes into the, thank you so much, Keith, that goes into the middle of their eyes. And you're like, where's that tissue coming from? Well, it's because of overexposure to UV lights from the sun. For some reason, I still don't even know it, and I read it in medical school, having overexposure to sunlight causes this tissue over here to start to grow slowly into this area here. Once it starts passing this area, this is where we really start looking into the world. So once this tissue starts to enter into this circle here, that's when they start noticing, oh, I'm seeing some blind spots in my eyes. What's going on? And it's because this tissue is slowly obstructing their vision. So it's a benign tissue. It's not cancerous, but a lot of times the treatment to that is to scrape off, is to just kind of scrape off this tissue. I've been inside the surgery. I've been within the surgery to see this happen. They just kind of scrape off this tissue so it can stop obstructing and this area, which is the cornea area. And so, but because it causes vision issues, it's just better to prevent it. Prevention is always better than cure. So it's just better to prevent it. So that's the reason why you need sunglasses. And they ask, especially for prolonged sun exposure. If you start noticing this benign tissue, just know that it's, you're getting, it's going to cause a problem the more you have sun exposure. So Zoe, hi Zoe. She's like, hi, I get overheated and then a little dizzy a lot, even when it's not hot outside. I wonder if I have some type of heat condition that makes me overheat easily, or maybe I'm dehydrated and don't know it. I think you answered your own question. I think it could be, and obviously I don't know about, and as your physician, I would also draw some labs because there's other conditions I'm just thinking of to make sure everything's okay. But if you get overheated a lot and a little dizzy, even when it's not hot outside, it could be a form of dehydration. And so I would really keep, if I were you, I would really keep track of how much I drink on a consistent basis. I'm going to be more detailed about water intake in the next video, but just in general, overall, we should be drinking about 8 cups of water a day. In women, it's about 2 liters. Men, it's about 3. If you were going to really talk about it, 2, and then about 3 liters a day. So if you're shy of that, try drinking a little bit more and see how you feel. Okay. If you're still feeling dizzy and things like that, it could be other conditions. It could be mineral deficiency, like iron deficiency, anemia. It could be even hormonal, like a thyroid issue. There's so many things else that could cause it. But if you notice that it's when you're outside that you're starting to feel the dizziness and stuff like that, it could be because you're borderline dehydrated. So check that out. Oh, high blood pressure. I was just about to talk, Keith, thank you for that, because I was going to talk about the high blood pressure. And since you brought it up, I was actually going to save it for next video. But high blood pressure and people who have high blood pressure and being in the heat does not help, because a lot of times the heat causes you to be dehydrated. And I wish I would have shown an image of this, but I always have my patients picture this. Picture you have 2 jars of glasses, okay? One is full and one is half full. And then you have a packet of Kool-Aid, and 2 packets full of Kool-Aid, and you put one in the half full and you put one in the full. Which one is going to get redder if the Kool-Aid was red quicker? It's going to be the one with the water half full. Why? Because it's more concentrated and less water. That's the same thing that happens in your body when you have high blood pressure and you're on medication and you're dehydrated. So we have been seeing a lot, especially in the summer months, people coming in due to very low blood pressure. And the reason being is they're taking their full dose, high blood pressure, and they're dehydrated. And so their high blood pressure medications is over correcting their blood pressure. So I like to tell patients, especially in the summer months, to check your blood pressure if you have high blood pressure. Because it may be that in the summer months, you don't need that same dosage of blood pressure medications as you do in maybe the winter months. Or it may be that you may need to be drinking more water so you're not dehydrated, and now your blood pressure medications is over correcting your blood pressure because of that. So I would just say in the summer months, for anybody who has high blood pressure and is on medications, please be checking your blood pressure to make sure you're not dealing with low blood pressure. Okay, so you're an athlete and you sweat a lot. I'm 14, so okay. So first of all, I like I said, I'm not your doctor, and so I don't know everything about you, but I think you know what it is. You sweat a lot. You're an athlete, so that means that you're always in the sun and you're exerting yourself. So, I wouldn't be surprised if it was because you're borderline dehydrated. Again, I think you answered your own question. Try drinking some more water and see if that relieves it. And also go and see a doctor to make sure that everything else is okay. But yeah, based on what you're telling me, I can see where dehydration would be top on my list. I can tell you that. So yeah, exactly. Thank you, Keith. Okay, so getting back to my topic. So obviously these are just tips on how to prevent heat stroke. Again, I'm going to do a deep dive later on, but this is just tips. So obviously find a shade, if you don't have a hat, sunglasses, or other items to protect yourself from the sun. Water is important. And so if you're spending lots of time outside and you started, just drink water. It's just best to stay cool and hydrated. And we already kind of talked about it a little bit, and I'm going to just kind of reiterate the importance of water. You would want to drink about the National Academy of Sciences, Engineering, and Medicine recommends a total daily water intake of about 2.7 liters, which is 91 ounces for adult women. And this is not just inclusive in just drinks. This is food and drinks. They recommend about 2.7 liters a day for women, and for men it's about 3.7 liters. So 2.7 for women, 3.7 for men, and this is the daily recommendation. Now I've tried to do that. When I remember we did a water challenge, and I did try to drink that much. First of all, each person is different. And so I know what 2.7 liters is because when I tried it, I kept on going to the bathroom. So I also like to gauge it by other things, like when I urinate, is it clear? If it's clear, there's a higher chance that my body's well hydrated. I try to also look, and I've said this before, especially when we're talking about water. I try to look at my tongue. Is it glistening? Is it moist? If it's moist, then it gives me more of an idea that, okay, I'm hydrated. I also look at my skin. When I pinch my skin, does it just come right back down? If it does, that's also a clear indication that I'm hydrated. So I do a combination of things. Maybe it's because I'm a doctor, I don't know, just to ensure that, I'm hydrated. But yes, if you wanted to know the recommendations, total recommendations is 2.7 for women liters. That's food and water, and 3.7 liters for men. That's food and water. So getting back, sunscreen. So you want to make sure that, just like Shauna had told us, it's important to have sunscreen for everyone, not just, it doesn't matter what race you're in. And the best sunscreen is one that at least has SPF of 30. And I will go more in detail in our next live of exactly what to look for in sunscreen. It's not just only that. There's other ingredients that is best. So I'll go more in detail with that. But make sure to apply the sunscreen on your nose, your ears, your cheeks, your shoulders, your chest, your neck, arms, just anywhere where you know that there's going to be sun exposure. Make sure to check it. Well, I mean, okay, so thank you, Keith. Explain how easily and quickly this heat will creep up on you. Thank you. Well, I mean, I mean, we all know how easy it can be because, we're outside. A lot of times we're doing activities, and before you know it, oh my goodness, it's been 2 hours, or it's just so easy because we're not really thinking about the sun and the sun exposure. And our body does a good job to try to regulate itself. So whether it's in the cold or whether it's in the heat, it tries to regulate it so that inside we're good. But there's only so much it can do. And when it starts noticing that we're in the environment, the harsh environment, whether it's cold or heat, we're in it for prolonged periods of time, there's only so much it can do before it kind of just like stops. And then everything, everything goes chaotic inside. So it's very easy to be in this type of scenario where you're in heat exhaustion or or even exposed to heat causing heat illness, especially if you're doing it consistently for a couple of days, before you know it. Maybe it was okay the first day, maybe it was okay the second day, and the third day you didn't feel it, but your body has been just experiencing this prolonged heat that this third day you're like totally dehydrated and you don't have any reserve yet. You don't have any more reserves. Whereas maybe the first day you did have reserves, so the body was able to work with what you had and kind of help optimize your temperature. But by the third day, your reserves are gone. And so the body's like, okay, well, there's so much I can do. I can't do anymore. Anyways. Yeah, so I know that's a misconception. Even myself, I had that misconception at some point until I went to medical school, and I was like, oh, okay, I guess I should have been wearing more SPF 30. But notwithstanding, we know better, we do better. So yeah, so that's good. Anyways, getting back, so applying at least SPF 30 to protect your skin is important. And also read at the back, because just because you applied it does not mean that it lasts to the duration of your activity. You may need to apply it more than one time. I believe the last time, oh man, I have my skin, next time. I believe a lot of times they don't last that long, like about 2 hours or so. So always look at the back of your sunscreen to see how long does the protectant last, and then you could be able to gauge how many times you have to apply it throughout your activity. So burns, and this is what Shauna was talking about. Too much time in the sun can give you sunburn. If you get a sunburn, apply a moisturizing lotion, something like with aloe, it can help, or even cool compresses to help cool the skin. And then if you don't want to wear sunscreen, or you're not in the shade but you have to be out there, cover up. And wearing a long sleeve shirt will help with that, to protect you from the sun. And I think that's it. So actually, I think that's it. So that's all the time I actually have for this session. Again, I am going to talk more about this at another session. In the meantime, it's just stay safe. Be very aware of your environment when it comes to exposure. I'm going to talk about in the next one the optimal times when you should be going out, especially if you want to do an activity. Like I said, I'm going to go a deep dive on the sunscreen, what ingredients you should look for. I'm even going to go in deep dive of clothing, what type of clothing you should wear when it comes to heat exposure and things of that nature. What are the optimal amount of clothing or the optimal kind of clothing you should wear? And so tune in for the next part 2 on heat exposure. And until then, you guys have a wonderful, wonderful weekend, and we'll see you soon. Bye.